You're watching Tri Vibes TV. Welcome to another weekly training video where I'm here to talk through all of the training I'm doing to prepare for Ironman Texas, coming up in just about 11 weeks. In today's video, I'm going to take a look at last week's triathlon training day by day. We'll take a look at the training in my plan for the week ahead, and we'll touch on some of the Garmin health and performance metrics that we've been tracking here on the channel week after week. So to begin, last week was a pretty challenging week, and not because I was asked to run farther than I have or cycle farther. It wasn't challenging for the reasons you might expect a week of training to be challenging. Instead, it was tough for me mentally because I got thrown off of my routine, and even though that's something that I have been trying to get better at handling, it can really throw me off. And it did throw me off. I will admit I got thrown off pretty bad in the beginning of this week. So let's kind of back it up. I'll kind of start the reason, to give you the full context here. On Sunday, I had a really long training day on the Sunday before my last week's video. 5-hour training ride and a 2-mile run. On that run, while I was just finishing up the last quarter mile, again, this was like a 6-hour day. I started really early in the morning and now it's the afternoon. I'm doing my 2-mile brick run. And in the last quarter mile of that brick run, I started to feel some sharp pain in my right ankle, outside of my right ankle. It was the kind of thing that came on really quickly, went away, and then sort of came back and stayed, all within about 2 minutes. So I finished the run kind of feeling like a little bit in shock. Like on one hand, I've just completed this monster training session, hit the numbers, hit the paces, felt pretty good on the run up until that last little moment there. And on the other hand, I'm like limping around, I'm standing in the kitchen, I'm having trouble taking off my shoe, and I'm like, what the heck did I do? And, you start asking, I was asking myself all the questions like, did I push too hard? Did I run too fast? Maybe I should have rolled my calf out yesterday. So all these things rushing through my head, and did the best I could to just sort of be patient, go to sleep, and, just let my body do its thing, right? So waking up on Monday morning, we had a 5.5-hour drive and then a 90-minute drive to do. I got up and I did my training video first thing in the morning, totally not addressing the issue with my ankle because, again, it had happened so recently and I really wasn't sure how it was going to feel. So did that training video and then got in the car, and this is where the week was, already tough for me. I was really worried that I was injured. I was kind of, didn't really have any option but to sit in the car here and do this drive. And, sitting can be kind of a uncomfortable thing to do, especially if your body's really sore from the day before. And all I was thinking during that car trip was like, oh man, if I didn't have to do this car trip, I would be swimming in the morning and that might help me feel a little better. And then I would go to yoga and that would help me out. And instead, I'm just stuck in this car. So my mental place was a little bit, off, and my ankle was bothering me. I was still limping around. We got to do a really nice thing on Monday. We went and did a hike, saw some dinosaur footprints, spent some time with the family. And, unfortunately, it was a little tough for me to enjoy fully because every step I'm taking on this hike, it's like, it's sharp pain, it's going away, it's getting worse, it's getting better. All of these sort of mixed signals from my legs. So that was the reason why the week started out a little bit tough. On Tuesday, we also had to drive all the way back from where we had been, so another long car ride. And I ended up showing up back here to my familiar home on Wednesday morning, just feeling kind of off. Like I had gone 2 days without training like I normally would. And I knew I had missed a run on Monday. I knew I had missed a bike ride and a run on Tuesday. My ankle's bothering me, and I'm starting to wonder if this is sort of, am I going to bounce back from this? So on Wednesday, I did my best to take it easy, went and did a swim, did my strength training, felt pretty good. On Thursday, I had a talk with my coach and said, hey, my right ankle has been bothering me. And, he was pretty quick to ask some good questions about, hey, when was the last time you got a new pair of shoes? How many miles do you have on your shoes? And Turns out I'd put more than 350 or miles of running on the pair of shoes I've been using. And if anyone, that's familiar with running shoes, they don't last very much longer than I'd say 250, 300 miles. Like they're really starting to get compromised at that point. So I felt like, light bulb, okay, hey, there's something I can do about this. Let's get a new pair of shoes. Let's see if that helps. So talking to my coach and having him suggest getting a new pair of shoes was really helpful. Got a new pair of shoes on Thursday, and the biking felt good, but I was still having trouble walking around. On Friday, got some strength training done, went to the pool, and then Saturday came and it was time to go see how my running felt. And so on Saturday, I ran 7 miles instead of the 10 that was on my plan. And I was very relieved that my ankle really cooperated. It didn't get worse. That was really helpful, but it took all the way from Monday all the way until Saturday for me to be able to feel any sort of reassurance. So what I'm trying to illustrate is that it was a tough week for me because I was very anxious the entire week about whether or not I had injured my ankle. I do not think I've injured my ankle at this point. So the good news is that the story ends on a bit of a happier note. Got my long run done yesterday, and then I had a really, really tough time on my interval ride yesterday. It was a really challenging set. About an hour of just warming up in zone 2, and then right around the hour 15 mark I started these zone 3 intervals, so 4 by 8 minute zone 3, doing about 275 280 watts on those. Then I went into 20 minutes of recovery and then started this set of 4 by 7 minute zone 4 threshold effort after riding for more than 2 hours. And the first 2, I was able to really nail. I got up average around 310 watts. That's right below my FTP of 317. However, during this second interval, I really started to come undone. I don't see my heart rate here. Let's see, show heart rate. As you can see, my heart rate slammed up 185. That is at capacity for me. I started feeling a little nauseous, and I really, really had to make an adjustment. So I lowered the power target down from that 310 and brought it down to about 270. But you can see my heart rate, even though I brought the power down, my heart rate still spiked up to capacity. And then on the last one, the wheels fell off. I dropped the power target all the way down to 250. So now we're like 60 watts below what I'm targeting. And I still was just struggling. Heart rate maxed out. This is not how you want to go on these intervals. Like I really felt unhinged. I started to feel nauseous, and I made the decision to just knock out that last 15 minutes. I finished the last interval at 250. I tried to pedal a little bit more, and my body just wanted to stop. So really tough interval ride on Sunday, and fortunately the run off the bike, very slow, 10 minutes per mile, but my ankle felt good, and my body was overall feeling pretty good considering how much sort of suffering I had just been doing on the bike. And it was suffering. Like I was live streaming it on YouTube. I'm like whimpering and like making these dry heaving noises, and like I'm watching the concurrent viewer number just go down and down and down. It's like, I don't know who wants to listen to this at this point. But yeah, if you're interested, check out the last 30 minutes of my bike stream that I did on Sunday here on YouTube, and you can get an idea of just how much suffering was going on. So ultimately, I think some takeaways from that, I just want to kind of address real quickly. I am very, very determined and committed to try to have a much better long ride next Sunday. And I think some of the key things to make that happen, I need to get back on some of the more normal nutrition products that I'm used to. I've been sort of trying to make it work with some scratch products that I'm not as familiar with. I just kind of doubled up on scoops of it. So a little bit of experimentation going on with the nutrition on Sunday. And I think that I learned that was not a good fueling strategy for me. So I'm going to really try to place an order, get some of the nutrition that I'm much more comfortable with, have that ready to go for Sunday. And then the other really big thing that I think is going to be key for success is if you look, I started that workout at 9:10 a.m. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but there's just something about pushing myself starting later in the morning that is just a lot harder for me. I don't know if it's like nutrition timing or maybe I'm just fresher in the morning when I've just woken up, but I'm going to make a very, very concerted effort to be starting my workout by like 6:30 or 6:15 in the morning on Sunday at the latest. I really think if I can get my nutrition dialed in with some products that I'm more familiar with and get that bike ride started earlier, I'm going to be in a much better place at the end of my long ride this coming Sunday. So that is my strategy to address that. And as far as my ankle goes, it's just one of those things in the rear view mirror now. So I'm really optimistic that my next week of training can be better. And let's take a look at what I have on the plan really quickly here. So today, swim is not going to happen. The pools were closed. Temperature was really low here in Houston. So, all the pools were closed. I did get my easy run done. I'm not sure why it's not showing up here, but I did my easy run in the 31-degree weather. And that actually felt pretty good as well. Tomorrow I've got my strength training session, followed by an interval ride on the bike with 2 sets of 5-minute fast, 1-minute easy, 4-minute. So these are like threshold efforts, that 5-minute, 4-minute, 3-minute, 2-minute, 1-minute, 1-minute recovery. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then a 20-minute brick run off the bike. On Wednesday, we're going to head to the pool, 2,400 yards. Going to get out and do some speed work, 5 by 5 minutes at 10K pace. I think that I can pull that off, especially with my fancy new shoes, right? On Thursday, I've got another strength session and then a 2-hour zone 2 ride on Tuesday. That's pretty sneaky. That should be good though. I'm looking forward to that. Friday, we got a swim. Saturday, 14-mile run. I am ready. Got my new shoes. Last time I did 14 miles, it was a really good experience. I'm hoping to run 14 miles this week and feel even better than last time. And that brings us to Sunday. Long bike, 4 hours. Start off easy, zone 2. Increase effort every hour probably to finish high zone 3. Finishing the last 20 or 30 minutes at high zone 3 of a 4-hour bike ride, that feels like a pretty tall ask. But like I said, I am committed to giving it a much better shot. I'm going to get nutrition, I'm going to start early, and most likely I'll be doing that ride on the trainer because the weather is expected to stay kind of crazy around here, be a little too cold, and I'm not really interested in riding all by myself without anybody in 30-degree weather on the roads here for 4 hours. That's just not my jam. So probably going to be on the indoor trainer again. So last things last, let's take a look at the Garmin. So last week, my training load really dropped. This is part of the reason why I was kind of stressing out. I missed 3 days of training. I was worried about an injury, but on the positive side, I think it allowed me a chance to recover. That training load dropped lower than it had been for quite some time. I dropped into recovery training phase for a couple of days, which I honestly don't know. If you don't look here, there's not a lot of blue. I mean, the last time I had blue was all the way back in November 20th. So had a recovery training status for a couple days. And then as soon as I did that big monster interval ride yesterday, it jumped right back up into maintaining. My HRV has been much better this week. However, it started to tank Saturday and Sunday. I will not be surprised if my HRV is low again tonight. And if it is, it'll probably drop me into that low 7-day average, which is going to put me into this strained training status again. Hopefully that won't be the case. But as you can see, again, training load dipped down below the optimal range and then shot right back up with that interval ride I did yesterday. So pretty good overview of how the week went. Not sure there's anything else to add. So appreciate you taking the time to check out my weekly training video. As usual, if there's anything you have questions on, suggestions, comments, criticisms, anything like that, I would love to hear it. And I'll see you in the next video. I'll be back next week with another update, and hopefully I'll have had a much better experience with my long ride, and hopefully this whole ankle thing is really just something in the rear view, but only time will tell. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.